The rain drummed against our loft windows like impatient fingers, and I couldn't sleep. Again. It was 3:15 in the morning, and Lena's side of the bed was still cold, still empty. She'd been pulling these late nights at the office for weeks now, always with David, always with some urgent project that couldn't wait until morning. David Lynn, my best friend since college, my business partner, my soon-to-be best man. The irony wasn't lost on me. I heard her key in the lock downstairs, heard her heels clicking against the hardwood floors of our industrial loft. The sound echoed in the cavernous space we'd bought together when our tech startup, Nexus Hardware, started pulling in serious money. $2 million in revenue last quarter, patents pending on 3 revolutionary components, and a client list that read like a Fortune 500 directory. Lena appeared in the bedroom doorway, silhouetted against the dim light from the hallway. Even in the darkness, I could see her makeup was smudged, her usually perfect blonde hair disheveled. "Working late again?" I asked, my voice casual despite the knot in my stomach. She kicked off her heels and started undressing. "You know how it is, Eli. The Henderson contract needed final revisions, and David wanted to go over the marketing strategy one more time. At 3 in the morning? Time flies when you're being productive." She slipped into bed beside me, and I caught a whiff of cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Something expensive, something David would wear. I turned to face her in the darkness. "Save some lipstick for the wedding, or is David wearing it now?" The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I was tired of pretending everything was normal. Tired of the late nights, the whispered phone calls, the way she and David exchanged glances during board meetings. Lena went rigid beside me. For a long moment, the only sound was the rain against the windows and the distant hum of traffic from the street below. Then she started crying. Not the delicate tears she used when she wanted something, but raw, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. I'd never seen her cry like this, not in the 3 years we'd been together. "Eli," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I have something to tell you." My heart started pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm listening." She sat up in bed, pulling the sheet around herself like armor. "I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. We'd been trying for months, and the doctors had said my sperm count was low, that it might take time. But here she was, finally pregnant, and instead of joy, all I felt was a cold dread spreading through my chest. That's wonderful, Lena. Why are you crying?" She looked at me then, her eyes reflecting the city lights streaming through our floor-to-ceiling windows. "Because it's not yours." The world tilted sideways. I sat up slowly, my mind struggling to process what she'd just said. "What do you mean it's not mine?" "David's the father." The words tumbled out of her now, like a dam had burst. "We've been together for 2 months. He really satisfies me, Eli, in ways you never could. He makes me feel alive, desired, like a real woman." I stared at her, this woman I'd planned to marry in 6 weeks, this woman who was carrying my best friend's child, my business partner's child. "But you'll still marry me, right?" she continued, reaching for my hand. "We can have it all, the business, the baby, the perfect life. David and I can keep seeing each other, and you can be the father. No one has to know. We can make this work." I looked down at her hand on mine, at the engagement ring I'd spent 2 months' salary on, and felt something cold and calculating slide into place where my heart used to be. "Of course," I said quietly. "We can make it work." She smiled then, relieved, and kissed my cheek. "I knew you'd understand. You're so practical, so logical. That's why this will be perfect." She curled up against me and fell asleep within minutes, exhausted by her confession. But I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, my mind working through possibilities and consequences. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. I didn't go to the office that morning. Instead, I drove to First National Bank and cleaned out our joint business account. $2.3 million, transferred to a personal account I'd opened the week before under my shell corporation, Green Holdings LLC. The bank manager, Patricia Wells, had known me for 3 years. She processed the transfer without question, especially since I was the primary signatory on all our business accounts. Lena had marketing authority, but I controlled the money. I'd insisted on that from the beginning, back when I still trusted her. Next stop was my lawyer's office. Rohan Patel had handled our business incorporation and patent filings. He was sharp, discreet, and expensive. Exactly what I needed. "Eli," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his mahogany desk, "what can I do for you?" "I need to dissolve Nexus Hardware, today." Rohan raised an eyebrow. "That's sudden. May I ask why? My partners have been engaging in activities that compromise the company's integrity. I need to protect my interests. What kind of activities? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken of David's car in our parking spot at 3 a.m. The credit card statements showing expensive dinners for two that Lena had charged to the company account. The hotel receipts I'd found in her purse. Corporate malfeasance, I said. Misuse of company funds for personal entertainment. Rohan studied the evidence, his expression growing serious. This could certainly constitute grounds for dissolution. But Eli, this will destroy your business. Everything you've built. Not everything. I've already transferred the patents to Green Holdings. The intellectual property is mine. I developed it, I filed it, and I own it. Nexus Hardware is just a name and some office furniture. What about your partners? What about them? They'll find out when everyone else does. Rohan leaned back in his chair. You want to blindside them. I want to protect myself from people who've been stealing from me. It took 4 hours to complete the paperwork. By 2 p.m., Nexus Hardware no longer existed as a legal entity. The office lease was in my name. The patents belonged to Green Holdings, and the bank accounts were empty. I drove to the office building downtown, a sleek glass tower where we'd rented the entire 15th floor. Our company name was still etched in brushed steel letters on the reception desk, but not for long. Lena and David were in the conference room with our 3 employees, discussing the Henderson contract. Through the glass walls, I could see them laughing at something David had said. Lena's hand was resting on his arm. I walked in without knocking. Eli, Lena jumped up, looking guilty. We weren't expecting you today. Emergency board meeting, I announced. Everyone, please take a seat. Our employees, Jake from development, Maria from operations, and Tara from HR, looked confused but complied. David leaned back in his chair with that easy confidence that had always annoyed me. What's the emergency? He asked. I placed a stack of documents on the conference table. Effective immediately, Nexus Hardware is dissolved. The business accounts have been frozen pending investigation of financial irregularities. The room erupted in chaos. Tara gasped. Jake started asking rapid-fire questions, and Maria just stared at me in shock. But it was Lena and David's reactions that satisfied me most. Lena went white as paper, and David shot to his feet like he'd been electrocuted. What the hell are you talking about? David demanded. I'm talking about misappropriation of corporate funds, unauthorized use of company credit cards, breach of fiduciary duty. I looked directly at him. I'm talking about you and Lena stealing from me. That's insane, Lena said, but her voice was shaking. We never stole anything. I opened the folder and spread out the evidence. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even a jewelry store purchase that I now realized was probably a gift for her. The Ritz-Carlton, every Tuesday for the past 2 months, dinner at Le Bernon last week, population 2, and my personal favorite, a $3,000 necklace from Tiffany's, charged to the company account. David's face was turning red. You can't just dissolve the company. We're partners. We're partners, past tense. I've already filed the paperwork. The patents are mine. I developed the technology, I filed the applications, and I own the intellectual property. Check the documentation if you don't believe me. Tara was frantically typing on her laptop. The bank accounts, they're all showing zero balances. Where's our money? Lena whispered. Safe, I said. And staying that way until I decide what to do with it. David lunged across the table, but I was ready for him. I sidestepped easily, and he crashed into the wall behind me. Careful, Dave. Assault charges would complicate things. He straightened his tie, trying to regain his composure. You can't get away with this. We'll sue you for everything you're worth. With what money? Your legal fees alone will bankrupt you. I gathered up my documents. Oh, and Dave, you might want to find somewhere else to park. The building security has been instructed to tow unauthorized vehicles. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure working with you. Your final paychecks will be mailed within the week, as required by law. Eli, wait! Lena called after me, but I was already gone. I took the elevator down to the parking garage and sat in my car for a moment, watching David's BMW through the security cameras on my phone. He'd installed a tracking app on his car that synced with his phone, and I'd hacked into it weeks ago. At 4:47 p.m., building security towed his car. At 5:23 p.m., I sent a mass email to our client list, our investors, and everyone in our professional network. Dear friends and colleagues, I regret to inform you that the wedding of Lena Carter and Eli Green, scheduled for next month, has been canceled. Recent circumstances have made it clear that the bride is carrying another man's child. Additionally, Nexus Hardware has been dissolved due to financial irregularities involving Miss Carter and David Lynn. All existing contracts will be honored by Green Holdings LLC. Thank you for your understanding during this difficult time. Eli Green. I hit send and drove home. Lena was waiting for me in our loft when I got home, pacing back and forth across the polished concrete floors like a caged animal. She'd changed out of her business attire into jeans and a sweater, but she still looked perfectly put together. Even in crisis, Lena never had a hair out of place. "And how could you do this to me?" she demanded before I'd even closed the door. "How could you humiliate me like this?" I hung up my jacket and walked to the kitchen, pulling a beer from the refrigerator. "Humiliate you? I thought I was just being practical and logical. Isn't that what you said you loved about me? Don't you dare throw my words back at me. You destroyed everything we built together." "No," I said, taking a long sip of beer. "You destroyed everything when you decided to sleep with my best friend. I just cleaned up the mess." She followed me into the living room, her heels clicking angrily on the floor. "We can fix this. We can work it out. I made a mistake, but we can—" "A mistake?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is double booking a meeting. Fucking my business partner for 2 months and getting pregnant with his child isn't a mistake, Lena. It's a choice." Her face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "I love you," she whispered. "I know I messed up, but I love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of me. You love the security, the money, the lifestyle, but you don't love me." My phone buzzed with a text message. Then another. And another. Within minutes, it was ringing constantly as words spread through our professional network. "Jesus Christ," Lena said, staring at her own phone. "Everyone knows. Everyone in the industry knows what happened. Good. Now they know what kind of people they're dealing with." The apartment intercom buzzed, and I walked over to answer it. "Mr. Green? This is Officer Martinez with Building Security. There's a gentleman here who says he lives in this apartment, but he's not on the lease. Should I send him up?" I looked at Lena, who had gone pale again. "What gentleman?" "David Lynn, sir." "No, don't send him up. He doesn't live here, and he's not welcome." "But, sir," came David's voice in the background, "I need to talk to Eli. This is important. Mr. Lynn, you need to leave the building now, or I'll have to call the police." I hung up the intercom and turned back to Lena. "Your boyfriend's here." She was already grabbing her purse and jacket. "I have to go talk to him." "Actually, you don't. You have to pack your things and leave." She stopped halfway to the door. "What?" "This is my apartment, Lena. My name is on the lease. I pay the rent, and I want you out. You can't just kick me out. I live here." "No, you stay here sometimes. There's a difference." I pulled a folded document from my jacket pocket. 30-day notice to vacate. Completely legal. She snatched the paper from my hand, scanning it quickly. 30 days. Where am I supposed to go? "I don't know. Maybe David has room for you and his baby." The words hit her like a slap, and she actually staggered backward. "Eli, please, don't do this. We can work through this together." "Together?" I set down my beer and walked closer to her. "Like how we worked together on the Henderson contract. Like how we worked together on the marketing strategy." "Oh wait, that was you and David working together. I was just the guy paying for everything." "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that. You and David made plans behind my back, used my money to fund your affair, and then had the audacity to ask me to raise his child. Did you really think I was that pathetic?" She was crying again, but this time I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no desire to comfort her. "I'll give you 1 week," I said. "That's more generous than you deserve." "A week? I can't find a place in a week." "Then you better start looking, or maybe David can help you out. He seems to be good at helping you with things." The intercom buzzed again. "Mr. Green, Mr. Lynn is refusing to leave. Should I call the police?" I pressed the button. "Yes, please call them. Tell them we have someone trespassing who won't leave when asked." Lena's eyes went wide. "You're having him arrested?" "I'm having him removed from private property. If he gets arrested, that's his choice." She rushed to the window that overlooked the street and peered down at the building entrance. "Oh my God, there's a police car pulling up. Good. Maybe now he'll understand that actions have consequences." My phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen, and I answered it on speaker. "Ely, what the hell is wrong with you? You can't have me arrested for wanting to talk." "I can have you arrested for trespassing on private property after being asked to leave." "The building has security cameras, David. They recorded everything." This is insane. We need to discuss this like adults. Adults don't steal from their business partners. Adults don't sleep with their best friend's fiancé. Adults don't get women pregnant and then expect someone else to raise their children. There was silence on the other end of the line. You know, I continued, I always wondered why you never seemed to have money problems, despite pulling the same salary I did. Now I know. You were spending my money. It wasn't stealing. Those were legitimate business expenses. The hotel rooms where you screwed my fiancé aren't legitimate business expenses. Sir? Officer Martinez's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Lin has left the premises. He said to tell you this isn't over. Thank you, Officer Martinez. I hung up the phone and turned to Lena, who was still standing by the window. 1 week, I repeated. And Lena, don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. I'll know. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I don't even know who you are anymore. I'm the same person I always was. You just never bothered to pay attention. After she left, I poured myself a scotch and stood at the window, looking down at the city lights. My phone continued to buzz with messages from friends, clients, and colleagues. Some were supportive, others were shocked, and a few were clearly fishing for gossip. I ignored them all and started planning my next move. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Word had spread faster than I'd expected, and apparently, everyone had an opinion about what I'd done. Most of the messages were from mutual friends, people who'd known both David and me since college. The tone was consistent: shock, disappointment, and a strong suggestion that I'd overreacted. Dude, what the hell? Read a text from Mike Patterson, who'd been in our wedding party. You can't just destroy people's lives like this. This is so unlike you, wrote Sarah Chen, Lena's college roommate. I know you're hurt, but this is going too far. We need to talk, was all Tom Bradley had written, but I could hear the disapproval in those 4 words. They were all going to side with David and Lena. I could see it happening already, the way our social circle was closing ranks around the victims of my supposedly unreasonable response. My phone rang, and Mike's name appeared on the screen. Hello, Mike. Eli, thank God. Listen, we're all meeting at Murphy's tonight at 7. You need to be there. Why? Because you've lost your damn mind, and your friends are going to help you find it again. Murphy's was our usual hangout, a sports bar downtown, where we'd been meeting for drinks every Friday for the past 5 years. The same group of 8 guys, the same corner booth, the same arguments about sports and politics and whose turn it was to buy the next round. I don't think that's a good idea. It's not a request, Eli. We're your friends, and we're not going to let you self-destruct like this. Self-destruct? Mike, they stole from me. They betrayed me. They made a mistake, and you're ruining their lives over it. David's broke, Lena's homeless, and you've destroyed a successful business out of spite. David's not broke. He's got family money. Not anymore. His parents cut him off when they heard about the affair. And Lena's staying on Sarah's couch because she can't afford a hotel. I felt a moment of satisfaction at that news, followed immediately by guilt for feeling satisfied. That's not my problem. It is your problem, because you caused it. Look, I get that you're angry. I'd be angry too. But this isn't you, man. You're not vindictive. You're not cruel. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. 7 o'clock, Mike said firmly. Murphy's, don't make us come get you. He hung up before I could respond. I spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work, setting up the new business structure for Green Holdings, and fielding calls from clients who wanted to know what was happening with their contracts. Most were understanding when I explained that I was honoring all existing agreements, but a few were nervous about the instability. At 6:30, I found myself getting dressed to go to Murphy's, not because Mike had ordered me to, but because I wanted to face them. I wanted to see if any of my so-called friends would actually listen to my side of the story. The bar was crowded when I arrived, typical for a Friday night. Our usual booth was occupied by the entire group: Mike, Tom, Jake Morrison, Chris Walsh, Danny Rodriguez, Kevin Park, and Marcus Webb. They'd been waiting for me. And sitting at the bar, nursing a whiskey, was David. I almost turned around and left, but Mike spotted me and waved me over. Eli, there he is. Come on, sit down. I walked to the booth, hyper-aware of David watching me from the bar. The conversation at surrounding tables seemed to quiet as I passed, and I realized that people recognized me. Word really had spread everywhere. Gentlemen, I said, sliding into the booth next to Kevin. Okay, Mike said without preamble. What the hell is going on with you? I think that's pretty obvious. No, it's not obvious, Tom interjected. What's obvious is that you've gone completely insane, and decided to destroy everyone around you. Everyone around me? Or just the people who betrayed me? Betrayed you? Chris laughed, but it wasn't a friendly sound. Dude, people have affairs. It happens. It doesn't mean you get to ruin their entire lives. Affairs are one thing. This was different. How? Danny asked. How was it different? I looked around the table at these men I'd considered my closest friends and realized that none of them understood. None of them saw what David and Lena had really done to me. They used my money to fund their relationship. They made plans to cut me out of my own business. They fell in love, Jake interrupted. Yeah, it sucks for you, but people can't help who they fall in love with. Love? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. Is that what we're calling it? What would you call it? Marcus asked. Theft, fraud, betrayal of fiduciary duty. Jesus, Eli, listen to yourself, Mike said. You sound like a lawyer, not a human being. Maybe because I've learned not to trust human beings. David appeared at our table, his whiskey in hand. He looked like hell, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. Mind if I join you? He asked, but he was already sliding into the booth across from me. The tension at the table was thick enough to cut with a knife. David, I said calmly, I didn't expect to see you here. Where else would I go? These are my friends too. Are they? He took a sip of his whiskey and looked directly at me. I know you hate me right now, and I understand why. But what you've done goes way beyond revenge. You've destroyed everything we built together. We didn't build it together. I built it, and you stole from it. I never stole anything from you. The hotel rooms, the dinners, the jewelry, those were business expenses. We were entertaining clients. Which clients? Name one. David's face flushed red. It's not that simple. Networking, relationship building, bullshit. I leaned forward across the table. You used company money to wine and dine my fiancée while you were screwing her behind my back. That's theft, plain and simple. Guys, come on, Mike said. Let's keep this civil. Civil? I laughed. There's nothing civil about what they did to me. What we did to you. David's voice was rising now. What about what you did to us? Lena's pregnant and homeless. I've lost everything. My job, my car, my apartment. You've made sure that no one in the industry will hire us. Good. The word came out flat and cold, and everyone at the table stared at me. Good? Tom repeated. Eli, that's a human being you're talking about. That's a pregnant woman. That's a pregnant woman who tried to trick me into raising another man's child while she continued her affair. She made a mistake, Chris started. Stop calling it a mistake. I slammed my hand on the table, making everyone jump. A mistake is an accident. This was a deliberate, calculated betrayal that went on for months. Okay, fine, Kevin said. They betrayed you. I get that you're angry. But don't you think you've punished them enough? I looked around the table at these men who were supposed to be my friends and realized that they would never understand. They saw David as the victim now, the poor guy who'd lost everything because of my vindictive overreaction. No, I said quietly. I don't think they've been punished enough. Jesus Christ, Danny muttered. What happened to you, man? You used to be the good guy. The good guy. I stood up from the booth. The good guy gets cheated on, stolen from, and humiliated, and then forgives everyone and pretends it never happened. Well, I'm done being the good guy. Eli, sit down, Mike said. Let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You've all made it clear whose side you're on. We're on your side, Tom insisted. That's why we're here. We're trying to help you. Help me? By defending the people who betrayed me? By telling me I should just forgive and forget? By trying to keep you from becoming someone you'll hate when this is all over, Mike said quietly. I looked down at David, who was staring into his whiskey like it held the answers to all his problems. You know what the funny thing is? I said to him. I actually feel sorry for you. He looked up at me, surprised. You threw away a friendship that lasted 15 years for a woman who's probably already planning her next affair. You destroyed a business that could have made us all rich. And for what? A few months of excitement? It wasn't like that, he said quietly. I love her. No, you don't. You love the thrill of taking something that belonged to someone else. But now that it's yours, how long do you think it'll last? I pulled out my wallet and threw a 20 on the table. Drinks are on me, gentlemen. Enjoy your evening. I walked toward the exit, but David called after me. Ely, wait. I turned back. I'm sorry, he said. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am truly sorry. No, you're not, I replied. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry you lost everything, but you're not sorry for what you did to me. I left them sitting there and walked out into the night. 2 weeks later, I was in my new office, a smaller space downtown, just me and 2 employees I'd hired away from competitors. when Rohan called with news. Eli, you need to see this. He'd sent me a link to a local business blog. The headline read, Tech Entrepreneur's Revenge Goes Too Far. Former partners struggle after company dissolution. The article painted me as a vindictive ex-fiancé who destroyed a successful business out of spite. It quoted several of our former clients expressing concern about my emotional stability and professional judgment. There were photos of David looking haggard outside an unemployment office, and a quote from Lena about being victimized by a man who couldn't handle rejection. But the worst part was the comments section. Hundreds of people weighing in on my personal life, most of them condemning me as a psycho ex who'd ruined innocent people's lives. This is bad, Rohan said when I called him back. It's affecting your reputation in the industry. How bad? I've had 3 clients call this morning asking about terminating their contracts. They're worried about being associated with the negative publicity. I leaned back in my chair and stared out the window at the city below. In the distance, I could see the building where our old office used to be. What do you recommend? Damage control, a public statement, maybe an interview explaining your side of the story. And look like I'm making excuses? No thanks. Then what? You can't just ignore this. But I wasn't ignoring it. I was planning. That afternoon, I drove to Sarah Chen's apartment in Cambridge. I knew that's where Lena was staying, and I had something she needed to see. Sarah answered the door with a hostile expression. What do you want, Eli? I need to talk to Lena. She doesn't want to see you. Tell her it's about the baby. Sarah's expression softened slightly. What about the baby? Just tell her. A few minutes later, Lena appeared at the door. She looked terrible, pale, thin, dark circles under her eyes. Pregnancy wasn't agreeing with her. What do you want? She asked. I handed her a manila envelope. Paternity test results. She stared at the envelope like it might explode. What are you talking about? The baby you're carrying. I had some tests run on samples from your doctor's office. That's impossible. Those records are confidential. Money talks, Lena, even to medical professionals. She opened the envelope with shaking hands and read the document inside. Her face went white. This says the baby isn't David's. That's right. According to the DNA analysis, there's a 99.7% chance that the baby is mine. She looked up at me, confusion and fear warring in her eyes. But that's impossible. The timing doesn't work out. Actually, it works out perfectly. You got pregnant 6 weeks ago, not 8 like you told David, which means it happened before your affair started. But I told you it wasn't yours. I told you, you lied, just like you lied about everything else. Sarah appeared behind Lena, having obviously been listening. I don't understand. If the baby is yours, then why? Why did she lie about it? I looked at Lena, who was still staring at the test results. Why don't you tell her, Lena? I thought. She was struggling to form words. You thought you could have it all. David's excitement, my stability, and a baby to tie it all together. You figured you could convince me the baby was David's. I'd forgive you for the affair, and you'd get to keep both of us. That's not true, isn't it? You told me David satisfied you in ways I never could, but you still wanted to marry me. You wanted my money, my security, my willingness to raise another man's child. You wanted me to be the perfect, understanding husband, while you continued screwing my best friend. Tears were streaming down her face now. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. But here's the thing, Lena. The baby you're carrying is mine, which means David threw away everything for a woman who was lying to him too. I pulled out my phone and showed her a text message I'd received an hour earlier. David's been trying to reach you all day. Something about needing to talk urgently. I think he's starting to figure out that the timing doesn't add up. Oh, God, she whispered. You played us against each other, and now you've lost both of us. David's going to realize you lied to him about the baby, and I already know you lied to me about everything else. Eli, please. The baby is yours. We can work this out. Work it out. You mean like how we worked out your affair? Like how we worked out your theft from the company? Like how we worked out your plan to make me raise David's child? But it is your child. Now it is. But you were willing to let me believe otherwise, to protect your relationship with David. You were willing to let me think I was infertile while you carried on with him. Sarah put her arm around Lena, who was sobbing now. What do you want? Sarah asked me. I want her to tell David the truth. I want her to admit that she lied to both of us. And I want her to understand that actions have consequences. And then what? You'll take her back? I looked at Lena, this woman who'd been willing to destroy me to get what she wanted, and felt nothing but disgust. No. Then I'll file for full custody of my child and make sure she never gets the chance to lie to anyone else about it. I turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. Oh, and Lena, that interview you gave to the business blog, the one where you called yourself a victim, you might want to retract that before the paternity results become public record. I left them standing in the doorway and drove home, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The next morning, David called me. You bastard, he said without preamble. You knew, didn't you? You knew the baby was yours. I suspected. The timing never made sense. She lied to me. She lied to both of us. Yes, she did. I gave up everything for her. My friendship with you, my business, my reputation, everything. Yes, you did. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, he said finally, for all of it. The affair, the business expenses, the lies. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix anything. What happens now? I looked out my office window at the city below, at all the people rushing around with their own problems and dramas and betrayals. Now you figure out how to live with the consequences of your choices, just like I'm figuring out how to live with mine. Eli, goodbye, David. I hung up and blocked his number. That afternoon, the business blog published a retraction of their earlier article, along with a new story about the paternity test results. The comments section was very different this time. Lots of people expressing sympathy for me and condemning Lena for her deception. My phone started ringing with calls from former clients wanting to restore their contracts, and by